Hello and welcome to Everything Fear, your one-stop shop for all things horror. I'm Kit Tinsley. I'm a horror author, film academic and general horror geek. This is episode 17 in our ongoing series A Life in Horror. In this series I pick my top 5 favourite horror movies of every year that I've been alive. This week we're up to 1994. Number 5. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The early 90s saw a revival in gothic horror. This version of Frankenstein came on the heels of Francis Ford Coppola's movie Bram Stoker's Dracula 2 years earlier in 1992, and just before the Julia Roberts starring Jekyll and Hyde adaptation Mary Riley. Like Coppola's movie, this version features the author's name in the title to strengthen the association that this is a true adaptation of the novel. Up until this point, this was probably very true, as it's well known that both the Universal and Hammer versions of Frankenstein took great liberties and bared very little resemblance to the original storyline of Mary Shelley's novel. This version, directed by and starring British Shakespearean actor Kenneth Branagh, is much closer to the source material. It's beautifully shot with great set design and great costume design, and it's really well acted by Branagh as Victor Frankenstein and Helena Bonham Carter as his beloved Elizabeth. The real star of the show, though, is definitely Robert De Niro as the creature, not the lumbering monster portrayed by Karloff and so many others. Instead, De Niro is much closer to the articulate, educated and melancholic creature from the novel. Number 4. In the Mouth of Madness. The final part of John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy is possibly the strangest of the three. The story of an insurance investigator looking into the disappearance of a famous author and finding himself in a world of the author's creation is far more meta than either The Thing or The Prince of Darkness, the previous entries in the trilogy. The author in question is Sutter Kane, partly based on the insane popularity of Stephen King, who Carpenter himself had adapted with the movie Christine. But there is also definitely something very Lovecraftian about Kane and his creations. The film is held together and kept grounded by an amazing central performance from Sam Neill, who never stops being relatable, even at the film's shocking conclusion. Number 3. Wolf. This werewolf movie starring Jack Nicholson is an unusual one. Directed by Mike Nichols, much better known for his dramas like Silkwood or The Graduate, this was his only foray into the world of horror. Nicholson plays a mild-mannered publisher on the verge of retirement, who is attacked by a wolf when his car breaks down on a lonely snowy road. Soon he starts noticing changes in his mental and physical state. He also meets and falls for Michelle Pfeiffer. As the changes get more severe, he learns that if he doesn't break the curse before the next full moon, he will forever be a wolf. This is an exciting and romantic big-budget movie that brings some interesting new ideas to the werewolf genre. Number 2. Interview with the Vampire. The first book in New Orleans author Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles was released in 1974. It took 20 years for the characters to make the leap to the big screen, and 4 more novels. The movie was directed by Neil Jordan, who had previously done great work in the werewolf genre with A Company of Wolves. Rice adapted her own novel into a screenplay. However, she lost faith in the project when short, dark-haired actor Tom Cruise was cast as her beloved Lestat, who is described in the books as being well over 6 feet tall, with blonde hair and regal features. Rice was very vocal about her disapproval of Cruise playing the part. However, upon seeing the film and his performance, she took out a full-page ad in one of the Hollywood press to praise his performance and apologise, and urge everyone to see it. Cruise's performance in this movie is one of the things that makes it brilliant. His Lestat is so much fun and so full of passion, it's impossible not to fall for him. Add to that a great story, great cinematography, great set design, great costume design, and a great supporting cast, and what you have is one of the best gothic vampire movies ever made. If you enjoy this video, if you could please subscribe, give us a like, and maybe tickle that bell icon to be notified when we upload future content, that would be great, thank you. Number 1. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. In 1984, Wes Craven made A Nightmare on Elm Street and created a cinematic masterpiece, an iconic character, and spawned a franchise that would come to define 80s horror movies. However, with the deal that he made with New Line Cinema, he lost control of his character and a lot of money in the process. So for a decade, he sat and watched his nightmare being diluted from a really terrifying bogeyman into a Bugs Bunny-esque comedy character. When the series came to an end in 1991 with Freddys Dead: The Final Nightmare, Robert Shea of New Line and Wes Craven got together and sorted out their personal and financial differences. It was decided that if anyone was going to bring Freddy back from the dead, it should be his creator. Craven, though, didn't want to make another entry in the series. He wanted to do something different. He wanted to make a meta, postmodern horror movie, where the real people involved in the making of the franchise are haunted by an ancient and evil entity that has taken the guise of Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund plays both himself and this new, stronger, more evil version of Freddy, with a new stylized makeup and costume and bulked up. This Freddy is far more intimidating and much, much darker than he'd been for a long time. The film was not overly successful on its initial release, but has gained a huge following since then. Perhaps the audiences of 1994 weren't ready for postmodern horror. However, they would be 2 years later when Craven again brought out Scream. Well, that was my top 5 horror movies of 1994. What were yours? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, stay scared and stay tuned.